guys, it's Angelo, and today we're back with another Q&A. The past few weeks have been busy ones. I had a few important videos scheduled as well as a lot to do IRL, so unfortunately we had to pause the Q&A for 2 weeks. This gave you guys time though to ask me a lot of questions, and I'll answer some very good ones today, and ones which should help you out a lot. If you too have a question, be sure to ask away in the comment section below or underneath any video of mine that you watch. I try my best to pick out the best ones each week or every second week, depending on how much I have going on. You can also ask away in the Ask Angelo Discord channel, so be sure to join our Discord server with the link in the description box below. Good. Now that being said, and without any further ado, let's go right ahead and have a look. The first question of the day comes from Ben, who asks, why didn't you touch on the corruption effects you should be going for other than your main stat boosting ones? Twisted Appendage works very well in keys if you don't have Twilight Devastation, and Gushing Wounds is just OP. Infinite Stars isn't the best unless you absolutely need it for boss damage. Now, I personally thought this was a good question, as I can shed some light on a few things here. First off, why I didn't mention corruption effects like Twisted Appendage or Twilight Devastation. Both are good corruption effects for us to use, however, both are nowhere near our best ones. Twisted Appendage is very strong in single target, however has an incredibly weird proc rate, and will literally have scenarios where it procs so often it quite literally does millions of damage in a very short time, while other times it hardly even justifies you wearing it. And this inconsistency is something which can prove to be tricky, especially for a spec which relies on as little inconsistencies as possible in order to deal a lot of damage. Again, this does not make these effects weak by any means, and if you have them, you should still wear them if possible. However, stat increased corruption will prove the better variant in most cases. The next part of this answer concerns Gushing Wounds. Yes, Gushing Wounds is an incredibly strong corruption effect. It has the highest simulated damage per 1 point of corruption, meaning you get a higher damage gain out of it per corruption point than from any other effect. Now, however, Gushing Wound can only drop with 15 corruption, meaning its strength is pretty limited and does require you to get the effect on more than one item in order to make it strong. A single piece of Severe rank 3, which will let you gain more crit from all sources, will sim just about 100 DPS higher than a single piece of Gushing Wounds, at least it did for me, and only has 5 points of corruption more. Now to summarize this, Gushing Wounds won't be that strong until you have it more than once, ideally even more than twice to be honest. It is however a great filler if you can allow yourself an extra 15 corruption in your gameplay, in which case you should most certainly use it. I hope this answered your question well, my friend, and again, if you have any further questions, please go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below. Jake Piper says, hey Angelo, when you do your Shadowlands changes video, could you discuss the idea of certain Azariah traits becoming talents? I.e., I love the rewarding and engaging playstyle of Chorus of Insanity. I'd hate to see it just disappear next X-Pack, and Jake, I completely agree, and don't worry, I will certainly cover important factors like Chorus of Insanity when making that video. I'm actually really excited to make that video, and I'll be sure to not miss anything important from Battle for Azeroth, which should carry over into Shadowlands in some way, shape, or form. Be sure to let me know what you guys think as well. Anything you want to see in Shadowlands when it comes to the Shadow Priest? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. Our next question comes from Lucifer Angeloc, asking, how did you do 55 stacks of Void Form even without Bloodlust? I'm not geared well, but my ceiling is around 35 stacks without Bloodlust. Great question, and a lot of this has to do with the encounter I'm playing, as well as my corruption effects and trinket. The Vita Charge Titan Shard is a great haste buff when it procs, and goes hand in hand with corruption effects I use, which buff my haste from all sources by 6%. This also synergizes with another corruption effect I play, which grants me a haste proc, meaning I'll get a lot of extra haste during most void forms, and can push that void form further than I could without these buffs. For this to happen though, I'll need 2 to 3 targets in order for my other corruption effect, Severe, which increases my crit gains by a total of 24% since I have it twice on rank 3, to take full effect. My Shadowway apparitions will proc frequently, since I'll most likely be carrying some cores of insanity stacks with me, and therefore will let me gain even more insanity. All of these factors combined make it pretty typical to reach anywhere between 40 to 50 stacks of Void Form when fighting more than 1, but ideally more than 3 enemies. So again, the key here are corruption effects, trinkets, and just a little bit of awareness when it comes to multi-dotting in your rotation. You'll get there too, I promise. Finally, we have a question from Sherzu, who asks, I understand that I need to sim stat weights, but how do I do that for Mythic Plus? The dungeon slice is said to be unreliable, so what is the best way to sim? I see most tops priests go for more crit than hastes as well. Firstly, yes, you can go for more crit, especially in Mythic Plus. I think I did mention that in my video, that especially with more gear you'll want to be aiming for more crit, but ultimately go for crit and haste and you'll be fine. When it comes to simming yourself for Mythic Plus, you'll want to try and stick to patchwork scenarios. This will give you accurate simulations for Mythic Plus and will give you a good stat weight to use. For you as a Shadow Priest, those stat weights will hardly ever change when comparing patchwork simulations to cleave ad simulations, unless again your gear is very good and your corruption effects are as well. You'll see changes in stats like versatility and mastery, and of course crit once your gear gets good, and haste will drop a bit lower, but by that point you'll have loads of it anyway. Alright guys, that concludes this week's Q&A. Again, sorry for not uploading these for the past 2 weeks, but I hope I made up for it with the other videos. You guys are giving me loads of feedback for the Mythic Plus guide, so that's definitely really cool. Next up is the updated interface video, and after that we'll be discussing what the Shadow Priest needs in Shadowlands. Again, if you have a question you want answered, be sure to do so in the comments and ask away, or join the Discord and ask away in the Ask Angelo weekly thread on there. Thank you guys so much for watching, enjoy your weekend, and I will see you all in the next one.